Hi guys everywhere, how are you? In this video I will teach you what's the meaning of complex numbers and how to perform operations to the complex numbers. Let's have first some questions. For example, if I asked you what is the value of 25 under the square root. Square root of 25 is 5. This answer is real number. So we have a set of real numbers like 4, 5, 6, and so on, -1, -2, -3, and so on, 0. The decimals are real numbers 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. The recurring decimal like 0.3 recurring, this is a real number. Non-terminating decimal like 0.372 and so on. Any fraction, all of these are the real numbers. We call them real numbers. What if we have square root of -25? Square root of -25, we don't have a number that we multiply it by itself, it will give us -25. So we will imagine a value that when we multiply it, it will by itself it will give us -25, and we will solve this problem. How? If we have the square root of -25, you know that square root of -25 we can divide it in two parts, square root of 25 and square root of -1. Can you give me the answer of root of 25? This is 5. What is the square root of -1, which is the new topic today? We will imagine a value, it will be imaginary number, and we will represent it by I. So the answer will be 5i. For example, square root of 16 is 4, but square root of -16 is 4i. Square root of 225 is 15. Square root of -225 is 15i. This is the meaning of square root of a negative number. If we combine two numbers, one of them is real, one of them is imaginary, we cannot combine them. That's why we will have a number which is called complex number. The complex number a plus bi. A is any real value like 5, b is any real number like 2, but it's with I. So this is the standard form of the complex number. And for example, try to think about many examples like 7 plus 2i or 3 minus 5i. This is called complex number. It consists of real part and imaginary part. How to perform operations? How to perform operations to the complex numbers. For example, what do you know about operations? We know multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Again, this is how to know the real number. If it has a value, square root of -20 of 25 is 5, and this is the real answer. And square root of -25 is 5i. This is imaginary number. When we combine the real and the imaginary parts, we will have the complex number. Performing operations with complex numbers. Here we have addition. To add them, you add as you do usually. You have the real part with the imaginary part. And this is the real part and this is the imaginary part. We will combine the real parts. 9 and -6 will be 3. -i and +7i, the answer will be +6i. Now you have a complex number of real part and imaginary part. If we are talking about subtraction, it's better to expand the negative. So the first one will be 3 plus 7i, but this negative will change the next bracket to be -8, to will be positive 2i. Now combine the 3 with negative 8, it's negative 5. 7i plus 2i, the answer will be 9i. Here, to expand first, negative 4 minus 1 minus I, because the negative change was after, then negative 5, negative 9i. Now combine the like terms, the real part, this is real, negative 4, negative 1, negative 5 is negative 10, negative I, negative 9i, and the answer will be negative 10i. Now, how to multiply complex numbers. For example, in this number 14, we have 3i. You want to expand the brackets by the distributive property, so this will go out inside the bracket for both terms. So 3i multiplied 4, it will be 12i. 3i multiplied 2i, the answer will be 6i squared. 6i squared. Here we have something new. What's the value of I squared? We know that the value of I is the square root of negative 1, because we don't have a value for the square root of negative, something negative. So we express it by the I. We imagine a value and call it I. But I squared has a value is negative 1. So when you have I squared, it means multiply this by negative 1. When you multiply the 6 by negative 1, it will be negative 6. So I squared will be cancelled, and we will change the sign of the number that's related to the I squared. Now the answer will be 12i minus 6, or negative 6 plus 12i, the real part and the imaginary part. If you didn't get this, try with me this one. 2 multiply 4 is 8, then 2 multiply 2i is 4i. Then I multiply 4 is 4i. I multiply 2i, it will be 2i squared. When we have I squared, this will be negative 2 without I. We will turn this positive to be negative. If it's negative, we will change it to be positive, because I squared, it means multiplied by negative 1. So positive 2 multiplied by negative 1 is negative 2. Now combine the real parts. 8 and negative 2 is 6, and the imaginary parts, they are 8i. Let's do this quickly. 5 multiply 1 is 5. 5 multiply negative 3i is negative 15i. Then negative 2i multiply 1 is negative 2i. Then negative 2i multiply negative 3i is positive 6i squared. I squared will make this negative 6. 5 minus 6, negative 1. Negative 15, negative 2 is negative 17i. And this is the answer. Now let's talk about division. If you have a denominator and you want to put this in standard form. Standard form, it means a number and another number with the I. This is the real and this is the imaginary. Okay, to get rid of the fraction, the denominator in the fraction, because we have I in the denominator and this is not the standard form, we multiply up and down by the conjugate of this denominator. The conjugate, it means if it's 3 minus 2i, we will write it 3 plus 2i. 3 plus 2i. So the conjugate here is 3 plus 2i. For example, the conjugate here will be 3 minus 4i. Okay, now we have two numerators, multiply them. 5 multiply 3, it's 15. 5 multiply 2i, it's 10i. Then you have now two expressions. They have the same values but different signs. This will give you the difference between two squares, because 3 multiply 3 is 9, minus 2i with 2i is 4i squared. The first with the first, the second with the second. 3 multiply 3 and 2i multiply 2i. This is negative and this is positive. We will write negative between them, because this is the difference between two squares. Now I squared will be positive 4. We'll turn this to be positive 4. Now we have 15 plus 10i over 13. Can we split the numerator? 15 over 13, and this is the real part. 10 over 13i, and this is the imaginary part. And that's it. 2 minus I over 3 plus 4i. Multiply up and down by the conjugate. 3 plus 4i. Multiply 3 minus 4i. 3 minus 4i. Because this is the conjugate of the denominator. Why do we do so? Because this will give you 3 with 3 is 9. 4i with 4i will be 16i squared. Positive with negative. Then 2 multiply 3 is 6. 2 multiply 3 is 6. Then 2 multiply negative 4i is negative 8i. Then I multiplied by 3 because we distribute this. Then we distribute this one. Negative 3i. Then positive 4i squared. We will change this. Sorry about this. This is I squared because 4 multiply 4 is 16. I multiply I is I squared. I squared, this will be negative 4. I squared, this will be positive 16. We have in the denominator, this is 6 and negative 4, they are 2. Negative 8, negative 3, it's negative 11i. Add the 9 with 16, the answer will be 25. So you simplify the two numerators again. Simplify the numerator. We have I squared will change this to be negative 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. Then take the imaginary together. Negative 8, negative 3 to be negative 11i. All over plus 16 it will be 25. So the answer will be 2 over 25 minus 11 over 25i. Why do we leave this? Because this is the real and this is the imaginary. bi. We have a, which is 2 over 25. b is negative 11 over 25. How to plot the numbers in a complex plane? We have 2 to the real part and 2i in the imaginary. So we move how many numbers in real? We move 2 times, and how many imaginary parts? We move up 2. If this was negative 2i, so the answer will be positive 2 and negative here. So what about this one? It's negative 2 and negative 3. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 2 and negative 3. The last part is about to solve equations with imaginary answers or solutions. If x squared equals negative 36, to solve this, take the square root for both sides. This will be x, and when you take square root for both sides, so the answer could be positive or negative square root of negative 36. When we have negative inside the square root, we take it outside by the value I. So the x will be positive or negative square root of 36 I. So x will be positive or negative 6i because the square root of 36 is 6. Another one, x squared equals negative 5. Then x equals positive or negative square root of negative 5. Then x will be positive or negative root 5i. And this will give us root 5i and negative root 5i. So this is everything about solving equations with complex numbers. To add some practice to this, solve x squared equal negative 13, x squared equal negative 13. So when you take the square root for both sides, it will be x equal positive or negative square root of negative 13. So the answer will be positive or negative square root of 13i, because you take the negative outside by writing I. In this one, you will send 11 to be negative 11, so the answer will be negative 8. X will be positive or negative square root of negative 8. This negative will go outside the square root up to be I. Now you have root 8. When you write it in the calculator, it will give you 2 root 2, because root 8 is root 4 multiply root 2, and root 4 is 2. Root 2 doesn't have a value, so the answer will be positive or negative 2 root 2i. This one, send this to the right side, 3x squared equals negative 24. Divide by 3, x squared equals negative 8. X will be positive or negative square root of negative 8. Take the negative outside, it will be positive or negative root 8i, and we will do the same to be 2 root 2i. Thank you. I hope you understood every single example, and if you have any problem, send me the example in a message. I'll try to help you.